We're going live. Yay, we're going live.
Woo!
Darknet has risen again.
I pretty much just finished watching the Airplay panel. For those who didn't watch, the why I've been gone, I can repeat myself. Pretty much been working all the time. Really busy. Been mostly not home, traveling. Last Tuesday, there was a tunnel fire, and basically delayed us a lot. So going to work, we had to drive 18 hours by bus, and then back again with 12 hours. So spent like 30 hours in a bus, and I also had the issue with a local paper slandering me, taking a picture of me, not having any permission to do so, and being really unethical by only showing one side of a story. I have had to deal with that shit as well.
All right, whose ass do I need to kick?
What was the story they were trying to tell about you?
Well, I was doing work, and they were basically saying things that were untrue, accusing me of doing shit, which they had no clue about why I was doing that, and yeah, basically, I emailed them, and they of course want to do a follow-up story, but I can't speak on behalf of the company. So I refer them to the company, and they haven't done shit. So I'm considering a lawsuit. So
Do it! Just do it!
Oh my freaking gosh! You're not gonna be started on me. I'm so sick and tired of that shit.
You know what? That's what I always say when someone says I might do it, and I just say just do it.
Yeah, so
oh my god.
So that's what I've been doing, and just caught up with Airplay. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Airplay.
The thing that stuck out most to me was when Koretsky talked about a letter he got, or an email he got from Totillo, that he didn't that the reason Totillo wasn't talking about this because it was too toxic, which is fucking hilarious.
Oh my god.
Toxicity. Truth equals
toxicity. Okay, what's Totillo, the Kotaku or Polygon?
He's the
you may notice
guy.
You may notice that Totillo actually was right in that because no one is talking about him.
Yeah.
Because nobody cares about him.
Sargon got a mention during this thing, but not him. That just puts the biggest grin on my face.
You know what? I loved it when
that shouldn't put a smile on your face because that means Totillo still has his job and is not going to get criticized for the wrongdoing he did.
Well, no, I mean, but I imagine it's probably really eating at him that Sargon got mentioned above him. That's probably really eating at him. That's the part that puts a smile on my face.
Well, on that note, I wouldn't want to be in Sargon's shoes then because now he has a big target on his back.
Well, no, he was actually
He's always had a
reaction
target
while
on
it was going, and he heard it and he thought it was the best shit ever. He was like, "Oh my god, I totally just got name dropped in a holy crap."
Well, of course you'd be happy about that because he has a huge ego. But ultimately, it's not going to work in his favor, is what I'm saying. And celebrating the fact that Totillo wasn't mentioned, the guy who's the guy who can say is the embodiment of GamerGate. Because if you really think about it, this whole thing started because Totillo wouldn't fire one stupid kid. If he fired Nathan Grayson, there'd be no GamerGate.
No, there wouldn't.
I disagree.
No, I completely agree with that because that would have solved the problem quickly and
promptly. John, can I say one thing here? GamerGate is a culmination of a lot of things that's been going on.
Yes, it is.
All this shit that's been going on over the past 2 years.
This was going to happen
eventually. Can I
eventually.
say something here? Kotaku, put a lot of shitty clickbaity articles during the console releases. They tried getting the PS4 fans against the Xbox One fans. They tried creating this console war thing. They're trying to create this controversy. Long before this, they upvoted games like Gone Home and shit like that. Gone Home is one of the many reasons why GamerGate is here. It's because we were screwed over. We were promised a horror game.
To be fair,
horrifying shit.
To be fair,
hang on, Leon.
To be fair, the biggest issue was the conflict of interest, not the clickbaity titles. Because a lot of sites do that. So saying that it was because of the Xbox fanboy war isn't really correct, because people visited them. If they really wanted to punish them, they wouldn't have visited Kotaku.
Here's the thing. What I will say, you did get this part right, though, Leon. This has been, you know, kind of. This is more than more than one thing that really triggered this whole thing. I mean, there was the fact that when Total Biscuit kind of complained about what happened on Reddit because of the false DMCA that sent to Monday Matt. Over 25,000 comments that were basically agreeing with him for saying that doing bad things is bad, deleted all at once. Streisand effect. It exists. GamerGate is perfect proof of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Nathan Grayson were fired, then basically there would be no point in trying to censor the discussion or anything like that. I mean, it would probably make Zoe Quinn look really bad as well, so she'd be irrelevant. Like, really irrelevant. She'd just lose all her credibility at that point, because you basically slept with somebody. The perception would be you slept with somebody to get coverage, and that was what would happen to Zoe Quinn. And I think that would just basically blackball her from the industry. My point is, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. All I could say is this right here with the whole them having a relationship. Just one thing I have to say is I'm not sure if it was intentional that she did it for having that for public publicity.
Which is why I qualified the statement by saying the popular perception would be that she would. That would be what everyone would take away from it at the end of the day. And basically, it would. A lot of people, like, from the opposition would be upset, but ultimately, hey, shit happens, and they'd re-strategize. So, and also keep in mind, this would also mean the other websites would break out of radio silence that they were doing for the first part, and there would be no Gamers Are Dead articles. So really, if Stephen Totilo fired one dude, GamerGate would not be a thing.
I seriously disagree with that.
I really... Hold on a second, guys. The only reason I'm disagreeing with you in that, John, is because, like Lisa was saying, is this was a collaboration of a bunch of different issues that have been bugging the consumers for a very long fucking time. Especially when you look at, for instance, you know, the misogyny narrative, all that stuff has been going on well before GamerGate ever even became a thing. People were getting so sick and tired of that narrative. People were getting sick and tired. I mean, really, what happened here is the realization of what everybody thought for a long period of time was that people were getting paid off, favors were being had, and that there was a lot of collusion and bullshit going on, and that's what we all thought.
Yeah, and one more thing. Look at what Carolyn did for Grand Theft Auto 5. She took down a score, not because, I mean, there was one thing like the characters didn't mix well. That was fine, but it wouldn't have been a 10 out of 10 anyway. But she made it be. She threw misogyny in there like that, and she threw it in big words. That was a problem.
Yeah, but that still isn't really. That's bad journalism, but that isn't really breaking any conflict or interest or not disclosing anything.
Well, the thing is, the thing you guys are missing here is, I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong in any of the issues you're bringing up. But the thing is, these things were kind of just buried as small, minor issues, and not a culmination of many, many issues that the events that V and other places, other communities looked into and saw it was part of a wider pattern within the journalistic scene and in the industry scene as well as the PR scene of gaming. And so it really wouldn't have produced that kind of... are you familiar with the concept of a Black Swan event?
Yeah.
I've never heard that concept personally.
Okay. Well, basically a Black Swan event is something that nobody can predict. It's like something that just happens out of nowhere, and it shakes up everything because of how unpredictable it is. It comes from the phrase like spotting a black swan, because it used to be believed that black swans didn't exist. It turns out they do in Australia, but that kind of just solidifies a metaphor to a degree. An example of a black swan event would include 9/11. It can come up in different scales. There's a whole book on it that, unfortunately, I haven't read the whole thing, but you get the preliminary concept of it. The Zoe Post. The Zoe Post was a black swan event. And this whole event, this whole thing, basically what would have happened if this was nipped in the bud early on, like if they just basically decided to cut their losses instead of continuing forward, people would have just gotten comfortable again, and they would have been fine with the progressive media being shit, and they would have just complained about it still, but they wouldn't have actually been taking action against it.
Yeah, so that makes...
But I don't think that they would truly have stayed comfortable with the progressive media.
No.
I think eventually a blowback was bound to happen. It's just it happened probably sooner than later. That's all.
Here's the thing, okay? When Monday, one of the things that really kicked this off, and it was when Monday Matt made a video about the Zoe post. This is before Gamer. This is right before GamerGate. He made a video about the Zoe post. Didn't talk about much of anything else. Yeah, he mentioned, the fact that she was a game dev that slept with a couple of journalists, but all he was talking about was just the Zoe post. She filed a false DMCA, which pissed a lot of people off, got a lot of people talking, which in turn inspired the Gamers Are Dead articles. And then we saw the conversation that was going on around this time by Game Journal Pros. So even if they had fired Grayson, I still think Gamergate would have happened. Maybe not in the form that we know of it as now, but it still would have happened eventually.
All right, fair enough.
Zoe Quinn kind of pissed off a lot of people with that.
Kind of.
We don't like false DMCAs. And she just went on the full I'm being attacked thing after the false DMCA. It was a shitty move, and it shouldn't have happened. That's all I have to say.
Well, this is kind of off topic because we're talking about error.
Yeah.
Let me get to the point I was making when it comes to Stephen Titill's statements. He is 100% correct. Gamergate is toxic. It is a really bad brand to associate yourself with. And especially if you, at the very least, especially if you're a games journalist or an editor of a publication like Kotaku, he wants as much attention drawn off of him as possible. He's probably glad that his bosses at Gawker were mentioned and not him. Because if Gawker was under, I imagine Kotaku's going to be sold off to another company because they have the name. They get the numbers. They get the hits and the clicks.
No, not lately.
Well, I haven't seen the numbers myself, so I can't even say that either.
They're still in the top five or six websites being visited.
Before we move on, though, I mean, you have to at least admit the only reason Gamergate is considered toxic is because Kotaku and themselves made it toxic, not because of us.
This is true. No. It is the media's fault.
And this is why we have to continue to push for better coverage. Gamergate does not need to end. It needs to continue.
Yep. But my what I didn't think the format was, they had 5 examples and they didn't even go through all 5 of them. They only went through 3, and basically they all said what we've been knowing all the time, that it's shitty journalism what they did, and I don't know why the format was how it was, because it should also Koretsky was talking way too much at some points.
Yeah.
Instead of letting the panel talk. I get he wants to inject some things, but the panel was there for the panel was the main reason the thing was gathered, and
with Obama.
yeah, and that's criticism. I don't know if he was a commentator or a moderator or what he was during that debate, because it was very unclear. The highlight for me probably was when Paolo came up and talked about Gawker destroying lives and why people in Gamergate haven't shown their face. That was a really good thing he did.
Honestly, when I saw that, I called Pavel an idiot, but in retrospect, he came across as a lot better than the panel speaking. I will give him that. And
yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be like, that was probably my bias against Pavel, because I think some of the statements he said publicly are just really dumb. But that might be my personal bias, like him. But he does have a point. I just think he came across as overly passionate about it. That's my
yeah.
conclusion on that.
If it's anything, it's overly passionate. But that's about it. I still think he well, what he said is very much true. And I felt like the discussion during the panel didn't really show even though it was kind of too much. If there's any criticism I could say about what he said, but it kind of lacked during the panel, which I thought also was a criticism towards people who were pro GG. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I know that one thing, and I know there are going to be so many memes that kind of come from this because it's bound to happen. I will say that I think Milo had one point here. If we're going to continue on the way that on the aftermath of bomb threats, Milo should have gotten laid. He's a few days behind. Can someone please go and take care of that? It's an event with Milo that got a bomb threat. He hasn't gotten laid now. Can someone please go and take care of that for him? Another thing that I thought was absolutely hilarious, and I laughed, but I also felt kind of bad for Christina Hoff Summers. The guy when we got compared to furries. And he was talking about talking to at a convention of furries. And she stops and goes, wait, a convention of what? Furries. And then Milo had to explain to her what it was. The look on her face. I was just like, oh my god. That was actually the thing that I wasn't going to stream that day, but that was the thing that actually made me decide to just kind of randomly do a stream. And I just started DMing people, hey, get on here. But at the same time, yeah. You were there, Leon was there. I know a couple of people are either working or I know, man,
some people were lurking.
hungover.
Some people were lurking on the other side.
Yeah.
But I have a question. Why do you think Koretsky made that comparison?
I honestly
he said it himself, actually. He said it was because some of the furry community doesn't want mainstream media attention. They want to remain underground. And some of GamerGate is, I guess, apparently similar to that, too.
Yeah, because
I think that was the reason why he made that comparison.
Yeah.
Compared with perverts, like there's some sort of negative stigma towards
that is true.
Benji, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that, or and can you fix your mic?
I'm sorry, this mic is for vocal sense. A little bit not enough sensitive. I said that furries have some sort of very negative stigma from the media, and it's really hard for them to improve their reputation in the eyes of the media. So that's why they try to stay underground, because, for example, you may find on the internet a lot of fetish videos that are, for normies, they may look like a terrible and controversial content, like girls posing in furry costumes, and the others they think that are they make that negative PR for furries. That's why they are kind of avoiding media attention.
Okay, I can understand that. I mean, with a lot of the shit that's been said about us, I mean, for fuck's sake, we've been told that we were worse than ISIS. You know, I mean, excuse me. If a name exists, we've been called it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I've been personally called a terrorist by some douchebags, so.
On a more serious note, I remember one moment at the morning panel when that wrong guy, Koretsky, addressed him that we develop a lot of codes of ethics, and we feel free to contact us, and so we can help with creating one. And that wrong guy said nobody contacts us, and nobody asks for help with making codes of ethics, and kind of make me reflect on it a little bit, like ethics really don't sell. They don't create ad revenues. They don't create traffic for this
That is true.
outlet. So, but I truly believe that only small number of new outlets that likely be created by GamerGate or people who are small gaming, I don't know, and they kind of be some sort of niche, and they'll be like exclusive to people who want to follow them, like printed game magazines at the moment. They also are niche. So,
I caught half of that.
Yeah, dude, you're really
I really can't.
Get your microphone. Get close to your microphone.
No, I would actually recommend checking the software settings of the microphone first before you try that.
Yeah.
Try.
I caught maybe half of that.
But back to the topic. Someone in the chat said regarding Koretsky, it's from SJW11. He was talking too much, but I think part of that might have been to balance up the debate. But why would he need to balance up? He had someone who were pretty much neutral and someone who were pro GamerGate. What was there to? They weren't arguing or fighting, so.
I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, at one point he cut Kathy Young off, and someone from that he worked with, someone that was also from the SPJ, yelled at him to let her finish.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest.
He also interrupted Milo when he was completely on point. He was striking all the main spots. The morning panel was pretty much accurate and delicate. People just talked stuff and nothing serious. Just giving history of the GamerGate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't watched the afternoon, so that has to be saved for next one. But except for the bomb threat, is there anything that came out of this? I mean, would this panel have been covered in such a degree if there wasn't a bomb threat? I don't think so.
I don't think so either, to be completely honest. And here's the thing, like you were talking about before the stream started. I mean, we now have newspapers, this stuff, basically coming to our defense, going, there is no proof that GamerGate is a sexist movement. I mean, even freaking, and this still baffles me to no end, Polygon, motherfucking Polygon, wrote a news article about us. They wrote a news article about us, and their readers are spilling spaghetti all over the goddamn place. I'm surprised none of us are slipping in it. I mean, that is something that I don't think any of us ever thought we would see. Is Polygon writing neutral about us? I mean, I thought it was like a prank. I saw a screen grab of it, and I'm like, someone made that up. Immediately, that can't be real. And then I actually go and look at it. Holy shit! No, it's actually freaking real.
Well, it was very neutral, and what killed me about the Polygon article was at the very end there was only one sentence about the original narrative that was pelted around all this fucking time. I thought that was a little strange to read, but I've heard that man that wrote that is known for writing very neutral-ish type articles on things and not being very biased.
Why do you suppose they gave that article for him to write? Why would they pick a guy who's known for writing less than hard-lined opinions at Polygon, a new opinion piece right after a supposed big win for GamerGate?
If I had to take a shot in the dark, if you don't mind, I'd like to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Honestly, because think about it, if they went and ran one of the biased articles they usually run about, say, towing the line of the narrative, it would have made Polygon look really bad, considering all these people were just now victims of a bomb threat. Not to mention, you have to understand, another reason this caught a lot of attention on the bomb threat factor is because it not only displaced everybody that was in that building, It displaced people and out of their homes that were in the neighborhood, in the area as well.
Yeah, someone in the comments for the stream that I was doing actually lived nearby, and he was giving us a count by count on what he was seeing. I mean, he was looking outside his front door and seeing this shit happening.
Did you ask?
That's all I can say about that.
Gotcha. Well,
I mean, I will end my part on that whole thing with Polygon with saying words that, oh my god, I never thought I'd actually freaking say this and I feel a little nauseous even thinking it, but oh, good job, Polygon.
Has anybody watched that quote-unquote outdoor panel? Like, I didn't get a thing from the video.
I didn't get to watch I didn't have time to watch the outdoor panel, but what I've heard is it's actually pretty good. It was actually it sounded pretty funny because Kratsky says since all these police are in sight and we had a bomb threat, let's illegally trespass in this abandoned lot. That's how I basically put it.
Again, I'm looking at the chat. SJW101. To balance up the debate in the sense that the SPJ woman didn't know anything. Well, she knew something. She didn't know about the review stuff, which they talked about. That's the only thing she didn't really, because it wasn't her area, because she was doing regular journalism, not critiquing or reviewing.
Yeah, but I think once it was explained to her, she kind of got the general idea.
Yeah, I mean, she was knowledgeable about on the subject enough. I would say that she could comment on almost everything except maybe the reviewing parts. So
I still love her reaction when someone asked her, "Would you call Gawker a legitimate site?" And just this look of "What the fuck, mate?" on her face for a second there. Like, you said what? And then she just starts laughing.
Yeah, but they also, what made me upset about, I thought it was funny that they reacted the way they did to Gawker, but the thing that was really upsetting me was before what's-his-name went up there and said something, that Ren guy kept towing the line of going, oh, well, Gawker doesn't mean anything, Gawker doesn't mean anything. Well, they're being cited over and over, and people do believe some of the bullshit that they fucking peddle.
Mm-hmm.
They do have to be somewhat taken seriously in this in this aspect.
Yeah, I mean, for fuck's sake, I remember when they more or less doxed every legal gun owner in New York.
Oh, yeah.
The one comment that actually pissed me off and made me feel so bad for this poor woman. Because of them doing that, her old stalker found her. Now she has to completely get up and move and abandon her entire life again to get away from this guy just because of that shit.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Second Amendment, guys. If we're in the U.S., we do have Second Amendment rights. I'm guessing there was a reason, especially with the stalker thing, that she had a gun in the first place.
Well, the whole setup, I think was wrong because he was taking input and questions throughout the thing. He should have let the panelists talk uninterrupted and get through the points, and then take questions or inputs as well, because it was interrupting the flow of the discussion that was had.
Agreed.
Daryl, I'm going to ask you a question that I asked the others previously.
Oh, no.
Why do you think Koretsky made the comparison between GamerGaters and furries?
I'm sorry, and what?
GamerGaters and furries.
Well, to be honest, I've only watched bits and pieces of the whole thing. If I have to take a stab in the dark, because I'd say that it's to try to make us as untouchable and as much of a joke as furries are.
Yeah, with one sentence, dude, he just proved your point.
Yeah.
What you were saying earlier, you just proved his point with one sentence.
That's what I'm thinking. That was the case. Actually, I think.
I'm actually, now that I think about it, I think you're right.
But then again, if we look at the whole thing, even if we completely abstract what Koretsky's intentions were, which at the end of the day, we're just speculating motive when we talk about him. I'm more interested, which is why I'm just listening a little bit, since I'm also late. And by the way, I apologize for everyone being late. I'm more interested in what exactly did we gain through all this. I heard somebody talking a little bit about the Polygon article. I was re-looking over it because when I read it, I didn't see this whole "ooh, they're coming at us neutrally." They were just talking about the bomb threat.
They could have put so many insults against us in there. They didn't.
What changed? It's Monday after Airplay. What exactly has changed? Because quite frankly, what I'm seeing is that not much has changed. Not much of anything has actually happened. In fact, most journalists who are actually covering us are just talking about the bomb threat. Ooh, bomb threats are terrible, which is kind of something that they push in this. It's kind of the same reaction to the DC thing.
Ooh, yeah, what I was just about to say that
and in that article, for example,
as DC, where they just mentioned it in passing that it was a GamerGate thing and the whole article mostly just talks about gamers and a bomb threat. That's about it.
And in the Polygon case, they're kind of just saying, it's a leaderless movement that's had a lot of controversial views, controversial views that, but they talk very little about what exactly SPJ, was about. It's just, they were going to talk about it. It was controversial. Koretsky knew it was controversial, so they kind of even pushed this little line of what would you expect? It's a GamerGate thing. It's obviously a bomb threat's going to happen. And at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of people running around and saying, ooh, the antis hit us with a bomb threat. Well, no, we really don't have proof of that either. We don't know who hit us with
100% on that one.
I could make if we're going to speculate, on if people are going to make a case for saying, ooh, antis, hit us with a bomb threat because they didn't want to hear us talk, I could make a case that it's just as logical that third-party trolls or even GamerGate itself hit itself with a bomb threat.
Yeah. We don't fucking know.
So there's probably going to be an arrest pretty soon. The fact that they had an entire bomb squad evacuate the entire neighborhood, this is going to cost the police a lot of money. So one thing I have to say is I'm expecting to see an arrest pretty soon with these psychos.
I don't know.
And it's not the first time that people call
bomb
mobilized.
No, but I'm just saying that.
You're putting a little too much. You are putting way too much faith into the system there.
Yep, absolutely.
Way too much.
I wouldn't, considering the fact that I was kind of involved with the system. An incident like this would cause an arrest to happen.
Okay, no offense.
This is going to go straight all the way up to the FBI guy.
Well, okay. What I mean by though, if we're going to bring up the last bomb threat, what happened to that guy? Who even did it?
That's another thing. You're probably never going to hear about it, though. They don't always announce when they catch these people.
FBI's never
they don't usually reveal it, especially if it's the FBI
that
involved.
Close to the White House, though?
You're usually not always going to hear about who called a bomb threat. Now, if this was the case, if the bomb threat was called on the White House itself, it would have been a different story. You would have heard something about it. But since it was some random bar about a mile away or a block away from the White House.
So you mean to tell me that a bomb threat that is called in a place filled with fucking journalists, if somebody is caught, they're not going to report it. No one's going to find out. I find that very difficult to believe, at best.
I believe it because they know how to keep shit secret.
Assuming that they catch somebody to begin with.
Sir, do you work in the government? Do you work in the government?
No, I don't work.
Continue.
No. Let him make his point. No, I do not work in the government. I've never worked for the U.S. government.
Okay, well I do, so I know.
Yeah, so you know how great the government functions in these types of things, right?
Yes.
Let's not start an argument.
The government. No. Wait a minute. I want to get this. You know how 100% of the time the government usually catches its man. I mean, the U.S. government has a history of that kind of shit, right? That's what you're getting at.
Can we please not instigate a fight here?
Barlow, I'm not going to get into a shit fit with you, okay? I'm not going to get an argument, but I'm going to tell you right now.
Because you don't have an answer, do you?
Verlo, enough!
Hey!
I'm not going to get into an argument with you, Verlo, but I'm going to say this, and you're going to let me talk. Hold on, John. You're going to let me talk. I worked in the system. I was in the military. I worked in Intel. I work in the government now. I know how the government operates. I know how classified information works. I also know how the law works. I am also a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. The FBI or the police likely will not release who did the bomb threat if they even catch them.
And that's the part I'm putting an emphasis in, if they even catch him. You have nothing telling me that, or
And you have
guaranteeing me
no
they're giving
idea
it.
how many resources they have to catch somebody that made an anonymous bomb threat. You'd be fucking surprised. So don't tell me that the government doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and don't tell me that they don't always catch their man. That's true, but it's very unlikely when they don't catch them.
Well, Nurgle, there's a problem with the argument you're making here, and it's going to be one that may come across as offensive as my part, but it does need to be pointed out that I've often heard people talking about expertise when speaking with them, and they don't actually prove the expertise they have. Now, normally this isn't a problem, and I can take on good faith that they do have those expertise. But if you're making an argument that is predicated on your knowledge based on those expertise, you have to prove that you are of those expertise.
Unfortunately,
Actually,
I'm
he
not
doesn't
allowed
even
to
have
do
to.
that because I'm not giving
Actually,
up
he
my
doesn't have to do that. No.
Quiet. I'm not going to give up my anonymity here.
Right. That's
Unfortunately, I can't do that because
Right,
I
and
work
that's-
in the government.
Right, that's why I paraphrase the phrase that'll come across as offensive. It's not that I'm trying to out you or anything like that. But that is
This
a point
is
that...
about freaking SPJ Airplay.
Let them finish.
I'm not going to have another...
Leon,
shit-
I don't do interesting. I don't care
Okay,
what you do.
everybody be quiet.
Finish.
John, go ahead and say what you got to say, man. It's cool.
Yeah,
I'm not
like...
mad at
almost-
anybody here.
Gotcha. Well, the point I'm trying to make is, like, I don't know if we can really like, we can speculate over whether or not they'll catch the guy. My question is, like, when it gets down to it, is if they can catch this guy who made these threats, like, do we know the specific details of it? Like, I mean, I'd love for this guy to be caught, because then we can get down to who made it, what was the motive, and all that other stuff. But the thing is, given how easy it is to be anonymous and on the internet, or even with a phone call or whatever, I don't really see a way that unless, like, we might never know, we might find out. It's kind of a speculative point at this point in time. So
I just want to add one more thing because we really can't. I agree with your point that if you're going to make an argument on experience, you have to prove experience. But at the same time, in Nurgle's particular case, that would be completely unfair to ask. What I'm just going to point out and say is, assuming first of all that they can actually catch him, and let's take Nurgle's argument in good faith. Let's say that that they have really good resources, and let's assume that they have a high percentage of catching their man. The problem with this is all assuming to begin with that the person who made the call or made the threat was even in the United States to begin with.
Yeah.
Once you take the person outside of the United States, that argument doesn't really hold a lot of ground anymore, does it?
Well, they can get a guy who's outside the states, but it depends on what country he's in, depends on what treaties we have
You and I,
with that
it's
country
three
as well.
times more difficult, don't we?
Well, yeah, like I said, it depends on what country.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's let's say if it's somebody in the UK, likely the UK authorities would arrest the man and they would try him. If it was, say, in Iran, well, shit probably wouldn't happen. It would just be, call Iranian police and let them know, because we all know the FBI, which would normally handle this type of case, is not exactly worldwide jurisdictional. I think the only one is what is it? There's one that's worldwide. I can't remember which one agency it is.
No, it's not Interpol, is it?
No, Interpol is like an international police type thing. It's not a U.S. agency, but there's one U.S. agency that has a worldwide jurisdiction. I forgot which one it was. I want to say it's Marshals, but I'm probably wrong there.
Well, the whole argument about this of the guy who called in, whether he's anti or whatever, I don't give a fuck. Basically, I think most of the almost all of the coverage has been because of the bomb threat, and not because it's been about ethics or anything. That just shows they don't give a fuck.
Nope. They never
Before we move
care
forward,
about this.
so something real quick. John, somebody from the chat knows who you are and know what you've done.
Oh man, that is good. I know what you've done, John Kelly.
I know what you did yesterday because you were on my stream. We sat and shit talked. That's what you did. How dare you? Oh,
Yeah.
God.
I love it when they
Kat,
say
thank
that.
you. Kat, thank you. That we needed that to calm down some of the tension. Thank you for that.
I know
Yeah.
what you did last summer, Jim.
Hi, Polly. Hi, Batman. Hi, everyone in the chat. Calder, I have not.
I will destroy you, John.
I don't think
bad.
I don't think this will ever escape me. I think everywhere I go, people will be shouting, "I know where you are, John," or "I know what you did, John."
It's everywhere.
I know that was mentioned on Lieutenant Surge's stream. Your name came up. It's like someone just goes, "I know what you did," and then everyone just kind of laughs for a minute, and then we move on. I was really confused about that. I'm like, what's going on?
I think like one of the big successes of GamerGate has become making that a meme. It is just. I think it's by this point. It's
Oh
probably,
my God, yes.
It's probably transcended GamerGate at this point. I wouldn't even be surprised. Like all the reactions from that were just. I mean like.
It's from Seattle for Truth, right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Hi,
For those in the out and like are confused about this, a guy by the name of Seattle for Truth who's done some video.
He has been on this stream, and I'm ashamed to say I'm the one that brought him on.
You
and
guys
I
can
still
shit
feel
talk him
bad
all
about
you
it.
want. He knows what John has done, and he will destroy John.
Yeah. Sargon's fan boys are gonna eat me alive.
Where's the popcorn when I need it?
All right. Well, what are the highlights do you want to talk about with the SPJ Airplay exactly? Like, what do you think?
One of the highlights that really got to me was like, go ahead. You got to think of what it was.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I seriously think because of a lot of the crap that Koretsky was giving Milo, I legitimately think if Face Mom hadn't been there to kind of hold him back, he probably would have gotten up and punched Koretsky in the face. And
just to interrupt you, I'm not gonna say. I haven't watched the whole second part, so this is kind of just the first part we're talking about, because that's the only one I've seen.
I was not aware of that. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's the first part only, because that's the only thing I've watched.
Honestly, I missed most of the first part, so.
Okay, well, something regarding the reviews, because of the woman wasn't really knowledgeable, but she said it was pretty good, and just because reviews are different than just regular articles, and they pretty said it just basic. It's just follow the basic ethical rules. They also said it with people who wanted to start up like new sites or blogs or whatever. Having simple ethical rules to begin with is a very wise idea. Even asking SPJ or not just SPJ, but contacting others would also be wise.
Yeah. One thing about, well, I guess one thing that did come out of this is it brought a little bit more attention to GamerGate again, so maybe more people will come into it again, looking for things, because it's been pretty quiet for a long fucking time now.
Yeah, it kind of has.
Well,
maybe it'll grow a little bit of attention to it.
Yeah, but
and by the way, I gotta point something out here. You guys really missed an opportunity to capitalize on that. Like, you guys should have had some ducks lined in a row and actually promote some. Hey, here's some advertisers you can contact, and here's some websites you should start boycotting. If you did on a campaign like that,
I'm sure some people did. I'm sure there were people who did.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff floating around.
There was something on KIA, if I'm not mistaken. I checked in there, and they had another campaign against some sites, so they did have something, John. But I don't know if it lasted that long, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess more people should have jumped on that. That would have been a really good opportunity.
True. But I've been out of the loop, so I don't know how successful that was. But I know there was something organized.
Because here's the thing, and I know not everyone's going to like what I have to say, but basically what has happened is GamerGate has been contained, and containment is never good. And the only way you're going to be able to breach containment is if you start capitalizing on opportunities like that. because that was a containment breach, because normies start to actually look into the issues on their own volition, because they're like, what is this thing that everyone's talking about in the news with this Miami, like, they either looked in the Miami Herald, or they saw on some miscellaneous blog sites, or maybe they saw on some website that was being brought up again. They didn't hear about it before over the past year. So these, or maybe they just saw that, you know, SPJ Airplay was being talked about by a bunch of people, and they just wanted to look into it. So at that point, that was probably the last time you're going to have a containment breach of that nature. Future containment breaches, you're going to have to go to like other communities and stuff like that and start like talking to them, not as far as GamerGate stuff, not in the name of GamerGate, but basically in tangentially related issues. Because right now, the reason why Koretsky compared you to the furries is because furries are basically treated as this other thing. Like, they're treated as a bunch of weirdos and freaks, which you could make that argument that they are. Well, but they're treated as less than...
I would argue against this even being a containment breach, to be honest. I mean, you can kind of look at it in you know, a way, but very, very minor. Because, again, to me, the whole... Personally, I think SPJ is a failure. That's my assessment of the whole thing. I don't think anything's changed the Monday after. I think that the coverage that we received has been minimum and been concentrated around the scandal, which was the bomb threat, which is the only thing people are going to remember. Oh, there was a bomb threat in these GamerGate things, and they're just going to associate. You know, there's a reason. Somebody talked about why do we get coverage when these kind of things happen, like with bomb threats. Why do people like Polygon cover us? Well, because they want to associate the name GamerGate with shit like this. Not saying that they want to say, oh, GamerGate did bomb threats. No, they just want to associate things like, oh, GamerGate, ooh, these gators had another scandal in which bombs were involved. That's all that people remember at the end of the day. They're not looking into, oh, what is this GamerGate situation that happened? I challenge that anybody who even looked at this whole thing looked at it for more than 2 minutes. And if we actually are honest, the reason why people, you know, like people like John didn't know about the whole website thing and the whole boycotts and stuff like that people were going, it's because of 2 reasons. Number one, GamerGate, something that a lot of people don't like to admit and get really mad when I say, but GamerGate is currently in shambles. If we compare their numbers to not even the beginning, but 4 or 5 months ago, everywhere we're down. We're down on Twitter numbers, we're down on Kotaku and Action numbers when it comes to active users. The chans are divided. Hell, even YouTube personalities can't get in can't agree. So we have the situation where a lot of people, like myself, didn't think that SPJ was even a good idea to begin with. So we were even divided on that. And to put the whole and to even you know, to make matters even worse, none of these journalists really had that much of an interest to cover GamerGate. Most of these outlets just covered the scandal and don't really give 2 shits about GamerGate. So Monday after SPJ, we haven't really changed anything. No, new people aren't talking about us. You know, we got SPJ Airplay trending, which is cute and adorable and all that. And quite frankly, now I'm starting to think how difficult it is to actually get things trending worldwide at this point. It seems to be a lot easier than it was a year ago. I don't know if I'm the only one who's kind of noticed that. But at the end of the day, who really looked at Airplay? Who really watched Airplay? Well, it was us. It was GamerGaters at the end. And what happened? Well, we're all just arguing about how good or bad it was. It didn't really achieve its ultimate goal, which was to get new people in.
No offense, Guy, but it's only been a day.
Not even 24 hours.
It's Monday. That's it. It takes longer for news to travel.
It travels fast on the internet, but it travels fast on the internet.
It takes longer to write articles. It takes longer to cover things. Here's the thing. When you look at it, I mean, look at Rise Miami News. I don't know much about them, but look at them. As soon as they saw what happened, they jumped on it like a heartbeat, wanted to know more and more about what the fuck is GamerGate? What is this shit? Why is this happening? Why is there a bomb threat called involving GamerGate? What is that? They're not the only news site that's going to ask those questions.
Potentially. You're right. And I would say that any website that is covering this as a result of Airplay, capitalize on it. Get in contact with those. Well, it's hard for me to say because I don't want this idea to be conflated with another idea that was recently proposed, with this like reach out to journalists and like suck up to them, because that's a terrible idea. But
yeah,
who proposed that?
It was proposed. Like, I do not know the full details on it, but it was proposed by Sargon, Robin Gething, and Queenie Martha.
Didn't Queenie leave GamerGate though?
Yes, she did.
They always leave.
Waka waka, motherfuckers.
They fucking know Leslie.
Dude, it sounds like you're trying to deep throat your mic right now.
Yeah, I think he's having a little too much fun there.
No, first you were too far away, and now you're way too freaking close.
Now he's eating his mic.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to do.
That's not his voice, man. That's his stomach talking, actually.
Yeah.
Dude, what did you eat?
You sure like sucking on it.
Oh, God.
No.
Alrighty then.
Just made that sound. Please don't ever do that again.
And other news.
Another news in the world of
Twitter.
Back on point.
So back out of Soul's stomach. Keep going, John.
Right. With that out of the way, like I'm not saying reach out to these journalists and start praising them or worshiping them or anything like that. Don't do any of that. Don't never compromise your values for the sake of getting a message across. That's something I fundamentally disagree with.
I agree with you 100% on that one.
Yeah. But what I would recommend doing is if these people, like, if the Miami Herald is still accepting editorial submissions of, like, 500 words or whatever, go write your own piece on it. Maybe let them publish it.
Yeah, they've been publishing a lot of those lately, and they've also wrote some stuff themselves covering not only the bomb threat. There was one they covered, I can't seem to find it anymore, but there was another one they covered where they talked about how the media created the false narrative or something like that. I forgot the exact title.
Right, which goes back. This actually falls back to an earlier thing I said before. I've been saying on a lot of these streams actually beforehand, which is you guys need to be making your own original content. You gotta be writing articles, making videos, making propaganda.
I'm a YouTuber myself, so yeah, I've been doing that since the beginning.
At the same time, maybe it might be a good idea to start taking a more proactive approach towards the media itself, as far as GamerGate goes.
You're fighting the media, correct?
Well, yeah, but what you do is you start going to as many different outlets as you possibly can, rather than just always making. I mean, let's put it this way.
They're going to ask you to compromise if you want coverage from them.
Yep.
Like I'm talking about compromises. I'm talking about compromises that are not in any way good. Like they're going to say you're going to need leaders, you're going to need representatives, you're going to have to apologize for X, Y, and Z.
Well, that's why the big, to cut you off there for a moment, Don, that's why a lot of people have been trying to push, for example, the ethics-only thing. It's much more coverable. It's easier for media outlets to cover ethics-only movement, despite the fact that doesn't really mean anything, than it is to cover, the things that we actually were fighting against in the beginning. But a point that I wanted to come across, because I was talking to a group of friends about this, and I want to get your opinions on it. Who is the specific audience that we're trying to reach at this point when it comes to GamerGate? Like, I'm all for fighting on a bigger front, but when it comes to GamerGate, we're trying to reach gamers. How many gamers does outlets like the Miami Herald, for example, assuming that they go ahead and write like everything about GamerGate and in the correct way and stuff? What is the Miami Herald's audience?
That isn't a question in itself.
Because from what I've seen, specifically when you go to these old, because again, the Miami Herald is part of this old media. It really is. It's part of this.
It's older, this one. I think you're confusing it with the one I mentioned, was Rise Miami News. It's not Miami Herald.
I'm sorry.
I don't know who these guys are. I honestly think they're more of a progressive, newer type of publication because they seem. And they call themselves the voice of millennial Miami, and it just doesn't. And they even put a whole tab on their taskbar for GamerGate.
Well, I mean,
so I don't know if these guys are new or old, to be honest.
Well, the point I'm trying to get at is that they don't seem, at least to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, they don't seem to be the type of publication that caters to the type of audience we're really looking for. Because at the end of the day, we care about if the whole purpose of things like SPJ. Personally, I'm against the whole let's do PR, let's recruit as many people who don't give a shit as possible. But compromising that for a moment, the people we're trying to reach are the people who are directly affected by the issues around GamerGate, which are gamers. My question is, how many gamers at this point? Number one, don't know about GamerGate and simply haven't participated because either A, they don't give a shit, or B, they don't agree? And how many of this specific group of gamers that we're looking for are reached by publications such as this.
Well, I want to answer your question with a question of my own. Who was the SBU episode made for?
Old
That's a good
people.
question too.
Old people.
I mean,
let
it
me
sure
tell
shit
you, the
wasn't made for
viewers of
gamers.
SBU.
It sure
me
shit
tell
wasn't
you-
made for us, because
Okay. Let me
All
tell
right,
you.
here's the thing.
Who watches SBU?
I consider that episode was blown out of proportion, and people really, really fucking thought it was more important than it was.
Well, it was definitely.
No. I mean, people's reaction to that was a lot less important because, as you said, that wasn't meant for us. That was meant for the mainstream. But we lost the mainstream from day one. We didn't need that episode to lose them.
It was still made. It was still. I mean, it sure wasn't made for gamers, because I mean, it spent most of it with the exception of the little.
But I'm arguing its
whip of
importance
iced
is much lower than you're
Okay,
actually giving it.
This is the problem. GamerGate needs to evolve. It needs to start looking into the other areas and the other communities that are having problems with the same sorts of issues that we're having. Because let's face it, GamerGate's not the only place where ethics and journalism is a problem, nor with the issues we had with the whole sexism harassment narrative it's not the only place that GamerGate has a problem either. It's happening. It happened in the sci-fi community. It's starting to happen in the cosplay community, and as well as others. GamerGate needs to start reaching out and saying, fuck just talking about games, let's start working with other communities and make a bigger mass that's fighting back against it. That's really what GamerGate needs to do.
I couldn't agree more. Now, keep in mind that the common denominator between all these communities, the common denominator is that we're all fighting SJWs. You can't get and reach out to these other communities. And I'm not saying this is your argument. This is more of a general thing. But we can't do that and reach out to these other communities when we just think that the common denominator is ethics and game journalism. It's SJWs. The people who are fucking up comics, SJWs. Tabletop, SJWs. Gaming, SJWs. Movies, SJWs. The common denominator is SJWs. And if you want to reach out to everybody else, then I think the whole ethics only push that a lot of faces and a lot of big people are kind of, moving around, that needs to die then. I 100% agree with you. I think that's the best.
I don't think. Hold on. I think you're. I'm thinking you're just a little bit misguided. No, you're right. The common denominator is the SJW thing. That is the common denominator. At the same time, ethics is also extremely important. We shouldn't drop that narrative. We should adopt both battles into that one instead.
I can accept that too. Well, the point that I was trying to make more is that you can't do it on an ethics only department.
Yeah, I get your point. That's what I agree with on there. It's just we should not just kill straight up ethics. We should always focus on that.
Ethics has always been an immediate consequence of dealing with SJWs. You can't obviously leave that out of the conversation. What you can't leave out of the conversation is SJWs itself, because once again, the reason why everything is unethical, the reason why everything is fucked up, is simply because it's an intrinsic part of their ideology. You see, to them, it's not corruption to help out this minority, weird, whatever, made up dragonkin, whatever shit that they're pushing. Because to them, there's nothing corrupt with that. It's helping a minority. It's helping to get the voice of the voiceless heard. So absolutely, ethics is something that that is a consequence, and I don't think anyone who's been saying you can't have an ethics-only approach has ever said, don't talk about ethics in general. However, you do also need to be very careful when dealing with ethics, because a piece that a lot of people, especially around in GamerGate, don't understand is that ethics is very subjective in and of itself. A lot of people say we only want ethics code, but yet, however, places like polygons have ethics codes. But that's not good enough. Well, why? And that's the part where a lot of people just go, well, I don't like polygons.
That's where, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Verlo, but
go ahead.
GamerGate needs
Leon wanted to say something, and then you can go, Noda.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead, Leon.
No, all I've said is basically with this whole situation is it is SJWs to the most part. As we're seeing it, they're throwing their propaganda. I first saw this. I know it's been going on before this, but when I first saw this was when Carolyn, reviewer for GameStop, did the review of Grand Theft Auto 5. She cut out like a small portion of the score because she says the game was amazing, but she says misogynistic in there and stuff like that, and she put her personal preferences into a review, which is a big no-no among most websites. If you look at the reviewing, the way they're supposed to review, it's a big no-no among a lot of publications where you're not supposed to put your personal preferences into the final score. So let me continue. And one more thing I have to say is I've seen this more often, and The Witcher 3 was from Polygon was like the biggest thing, even worse than Grand Theft Auto. They threw up random shit, and that's what turned EML's chung over. It's stupid shit like that that's going to happen all the time.
All right. Well, I forgot what point I was gonna make.
Well,
to give you a reminder, we were talking about I don't know. You were kind of agreeing with me there about it can't be just. It has to be both SJWs and ethics. That was kind of your. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, it does have to be both. Now, yeah, that's right. You were saying ethics can be subjective. That's what you were talking about. Well, that's the thing is what GamerGate or whatever amorphous mass forms out of going after and helping each of these communities and getting these communities to start coming together. The communities have to build a set of ethics that they agree with and then present those to those publications saying, these are the ethics we want enforced. This is what we want. Not what you're saying, but what we want. And you got to remember, the SJW world, it's not built on supporting minorities and fighting for the equalities and all that. It's built on, who can come up with the biggest controversy and come up with the biggest load of bullshit we can publish that's going to get the clicks. We're still fighting clickbait. That's what we're still fighting.
Yeah.
We're not so much.
I would argue that you're kind of simplifying SJW ideology and its implication in this whole thing. They're not. Once again, obviously SJW ideology helps corruption along.
SJW ideology is a vector for corruption. It's basically using social justice as a shield to deflect criticism of any kind. That's why social justice is a problem. And
that's why Not Your Shield exists.
Yeah, but Not Your Shield was looked at as a big joke, unfortunately, by their side of the house.
Honestly, I view it as a joke as well because it's basically just another vector for pushing an agenda, and it's basically
it's fighting identity politics with identity politics.
Pretty much, and like you take a look at the Not Your Shield tweets and stuff like that, it's all about being a special snowflake, all of it. And then you see people like. Then you see certain e-celebs going around saying, "Hey, Not Your Shield, help me out here. I need to make a point. Look at my."
E-celeb again?
Yeah, that shit does piss me off. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, that shit pisses me off.
And it didn't. And the sad part is, it didn't start out that way. Not Your Shield was a good idea in the beginning, but it has absolutely become our version of the whole identity politics thing and the whole look, we have minorities too. It's kind of a dick measuring contest that GamerGate unfortunately sometimes wagers with these guys. Oh no, it's similar to the we get harassed too. Oh, people say mean things to us on Twitter too, and it just legitimizes their argument. You see, when you say things like that, you're not countering their argument, you're playing into it. At the end of the day, they don't care if you win that particular battle. They won the war in that sense for the simple, and I hate using the war analogy, but bear with me. Because at the end of the day, what they want is to do things, and to give an easier example, what they want is to do things like, hey, such thing as Twitter harassment, it's a thing now. If you go ahead and you answer we've gotten harassed on Twitter with, so have we, you've legitimized the concept of, Twitter harassment is a thing. We need to deal with it. And then you can't get mad when Twitter takes these crazy fucking measures to stop the horrible feelings from being hurt and all that. So, and that's kind of what GamerGate has become.
But is it so? But hold on. But is it so much to ask Twitter to consistently enforce their rules? I mean, we're seeing people get banned and suspended, while some other motherfucker like Randy Harper can run all over the fucking place and act like a retard on there.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, that's what I was about to
Why do you think that
is?
Yeah. I'll let you take it, John. Go ahead.
Well, that's why I asked, actually. Why do you think it is that Randy Harper gets a free pass?
Well, she said it.
Because she has a lot of buddies that work into Twitter, and you need to get to the point where, I mean, just recently we found out that someone we knew had her Twitter account taken down after writing an article about Randy Harper, and that person said to her later on, take down your articles like that, take down those tweets like that, and then we'll bring it back.
I remember, that was, what was that? Yeah. That was that. I remember who that was.
I know who it is.
Was it Sushi?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
But that right there, you have it right there. You could expose what just happened right there to Twitter and say, handle this person immediately, or you'll be hearing from my lawyer.
But that's the problem.
Say the words, you'll be hearing from my lawyer, and it'll be immediate.
Saying the words you'll hear from my lawyer these days doesn't work anymore because a lot of people realize not everybody has the money to hire a lawyer. Plus, not to mention, proving a case is not always easy. There's all kinds of different loopholes you can go around.
Reasonable
not only
doubt.
that, but Twitter is also this huge multi-million-dollar industry. You honestly think that one little person threatening them with an attorney is going to do anything? They'll just laugh it off.
Thing is, you have to realize that. Well, the thing about Twitter, it's another social media platform. You have to realize who's funding them and how they get their sources of revenue, and what certain entities are leaning on them as well. Those are all factors to take into consideration. But a point that I wanted to get back to that Nurgle brought up about the need to basically come up with a code of ethics that the gamers come up with and present them to the enthusiast press and publications and just have them follow this code of ethics. I think that goal is too limited and too short-sighted, and I also think that it could potentially be a vector for corruption to have a set of code of ethics, because once you firmly lock down what your ethical standards are, you can do, and you write it down to the law, you can basically separate the intent of the law itself from the letter and use the letter of the law to basically rules-lawyer your way into all kinds of corrupt practices. And the thing when it comes to ethics in journalism is it doesn't prevent problems like the fact that most game journalist websites are essentially PR outlets, like Polygon. You want Polygon to stay in this business after they were founded on Microsoft dollars? Can you ever trust them again?
No.
Well, I'm not saying that we should trust these sites again. I was just saying, though, that's the only way you're going to make ethics less subjective, is if the demands of, say, GamerGate come up with their own standards of what ethics are and present them and have those followed. That's the only way ethics will be less subjective. I understand completely where you're coming from there. I'm not saying it's the right or the wrong thing to go for. It's just an example. But above all else, you guys the movement has to evolve. We can't just stay the amorphous mass it is. Eventually, a set of structure is going to have to evolve into it. Maybe not having leaders, but eventually some structure is going to have to happen no matter what. Because it can't stay the way it is, or it will never get anywhere, and it'll always stay locked down and contained like it is now. That's the only way it's going to get somewhere.
Let me link you.
I would argue.
On that particular note, let me link you a thread that was posted by what is commonly referred to as how do I phrase this? Basically, a guy that has been using the internet and been in online communities since way back in the day, or at least that's what the anonymous poster claims.
Okay.
Recommend reading it, and I recommend sharing that. Basically, it goes through a list of strategies that the opposition is using, and a bunch of counter strategies you can use against them. As far as evolving the direction goes, I don't agree that we need to get more organized. At the end of the day, I think that by having us get more organized, it basically contains us even more. That's my position on that.
It depends on how the community evolves.
But I want to go.
And to build on that real quick. Give me a moment, John. Just to build on that whole thing to begin with, I don't think that you actually need to sit down and say this is the code of ethics that we actually want. Because again, the problem has become clear. The source of all of this issue is the social justice ideology. I say attack that. If you just completely attack that, which is the common denominator, which is the things that people like in comics and tabletop will all immediately get behind, movie fanatics, etc., etc., they can all get behind that shit because it's really easy. People would like to say, oh no, it's difficult to attack an ideology. No, it's not. All you have to do is point out things like, well, this is what these outlets believe. They believe that if you see titties in video games, you are a misogynist. It's really easy to point that out, and that's why we were so successful at the beginning. When we moved away from that idea, when we moved away from that line of thought, that's when things started to, that's when problems started to happen. That's when people started to leave. That's when we started to fight. I don't think that we really need to sit down and say these are the ethics we want, because at the end of the day, even if we have ethical standards in place or ethical codes in place, it's kind of like John said, Polygon can't be trusted. And here's an example of how ethics can't really help you. if you have, let's say that a website has ethical standards, whatever ethical standards you want in place, an ethical code or code of ethics or whatever, that we choose in place. Let's assume that you have two writers, writer A and writer B, and let's assume that you have a game developer 1. Now, game developer 1 knows writer A, so writer A can't write about him. What does he do? He tells his buddy, writer B, hey, write a fluff piece for this guy. You have no way with ethical standards and ethical codes to prove that there's any violation there whatsoever. But how do you know that this violations can happen? Well, because it's a part of their ideology. They think it's okay. These people, it's not that they don't know what ethics are, it's that they fundamentally oppose it. You can't fix them.
All right, Lo, I don't mean to cut you off, but Lisa's been trying to say something. If you don't mind.
Oh, I'm done. Go ahead.
Thanks, man. Just here's the thing, and we saw this at the very beginning of this whole thing as well. We could give them, we could all get together and create a list of guidelines or whatever you want to call it that we can all agree on and hand it to them and say, this is what we would like to see. That's about all we can actually do. We can't force them to follow it. The only thing we can really do in order to force it is boycott, which is what we've been doing.
Here's a better idea. Why do you, I actually, this is something that I'm really having trouble getting across, because there seems to be, it always comes down to, whenever we talk about the end goal, it always seems to be this dumb kind of idea that we always have to have an ethics versus SJWs debate. And I'm getting really sick of it.
I think it's both, personally. You and I actually discussed this on my stream yesterday. I think it's a little bit of both. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't come into this wanting to smack a few SJWs in the face. Especially after, as an actual rape victim myself, the way that they just minimize sexual abuse or rape or childhood abuse infuriates me. And yeah, I will gladly say right now, I came into this with that as part of the reason of my fighting. Okay, and I've been honest about that from the very beginning. I think that anyone who says it's about one or the other is missing the whole picture. It's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. I will, I'm not saying that's either or. I'm saying that basically we're limiting ourselves to two issues. When the real issue is, when it comes to journalists, just the journalism side, it's not even going to the whole indie clique side of things, or the fact that the industry is a mess, or the fact that there's still other vectors and avenues for PR companies and gaming companies to influence the market unfairly. But the thing is that comes down to is, yeah, there's a whole other field of discussions that we can go into. But the point I'm trying to make is, when it comes to these journalistic outlets, the main thing that it comes down to that they don't have, that we should really point out, is trust.
That is true.
Yes, that's the thing. It doesn't matter how ethical they become. It doesn't matter how much we try to reform them. Why would you ever trust them ever again?
Something that was actually mentioned about that at the SBJ was they were talking about the escapists. The escapists actually did come forward, did admit they were wrong, and they've been trying to do a better job, and they gained the trust back. They regained the trust of a lot of gamers through that.
Don't get me started with the escapist.
I'm gonna try to close things down soon, so I'm gonna let everyone have a last say. Nurgle, do you have anything we've discussed you want to mention before?
If I can finish my point, though.
Okay, John. Yeah, John.
I'd just like to interrupt because I was kind of on a point. I was interrupted, but basically my point is, all the corruption we know of is what we've been able to find using Google and Twitter searches and using web archives and stuff like that. We've just been able to search for this research because people were sloppy. Think about all the stuff that happens behind the scenes that we don't know about. And just as an example, the Zoe post, that if that guy didn't give his first-hand account on his own terms, we would have never known about any of that, now would we? That's not completely true, but for a lot of the details that he was able to provide with his first-hand account, we would have never been able to get those leads in the first place. So it's going to take some kind of happenstance or something in order to find the deeper levels of corruption, especially in the AAA side of things. Because you think that those people are smelling like roses right now? Well, that's because they're not as dumb and not as they're not as sloppy when you get down to it. So
then again, I know 5-year-olds who aren't just dumb as sloppy either, but it's not that matter.
Perhaps what we need is a mole to infiltrate their ranks.
Oh, here we go.
That's a little too advanced for what we're doing right now. But basically, what I'm trying to get at
Oh,
is,
I can do it. Trust me, I am the Lord of
The way you
Chaos.
said that,
Do it.
the way
Make your dreams come
that,
true.
I don't know. Okay, first off, fuck Shia LaBeouf. The fucking
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Fuck Shia LaBeouf and his cannibalism and that goddamn rat tail he has now.
Dude, that rat tail is fucking amazing, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, the final statement on this issue. The final statement on this issue.
It's not the 90s. Okay, it's not the 90s. He's not Billy Ray Cyrus.
He's a Jedi. What are you talking about?
I'd have sex with Shia LaBeouf.
Don't let your dreams be dreams, man.
Okay, guys, let Lisa talk. It's her final point.
Alright, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm having too much fun.
Yeah, I am too, honestly. What's my... Fuck! You made me lose my train of thought.
Okay, Lisa, you have the floor.
I lost my train of thought. Thank you, Shia fucking goddamn buff.
I think what you were saying is that you were going to get to the point where other people would stop and you're going to work hard at it. I think that's where you were at.
No.
Oh, your leg is caught in the bear trap.
Oh, god damn it, Ty!
No, you're...
Okay, Ty, I'm trying to think of someone else. I'm trying to think of my points.
This has
God
been
damn
an
you
interesting
all.
stream.
Ty, you're not helping! Stop singing that goddamn song! Someone else go. I'm gonna try and think of my point.
Final point that I was trying to make is you already know you can't trust them because they've already been exposed to be corrupt. All these outlets, all these publications have been, for multiple reasons, time and time again. I mean, there's like 1,000 examples of reasons why. Well, not 1,000. I think it's actually half of that. I think it's like 300 or 500. I forget the exact number. Like just on Deep Freeze, you have a lot of valid complaints not to trust these publications. These are all things that you guys have gotten behind and supported as reasons of, hey, these websites are not good for consumers. They're terrible. All they do, they're not useful, and they basically do more harm than good. And they hired very nasty people. Don't go with them. Stop endorsing them.
I have to go slaughter my boyfriend because he just started playing that fucking Shia LaBeouf song. I gotta go. Bye, guys.
See you later.
Have a good one.
Okay, and I agree with you.
Don't let
and
your
I agree
dreams
with
be
John
dreams.
on this point. I agree with John on this point. You do not let them. This is my final point right here. I have to say about these websites. You don't like it, don't go to it. That's why when I used to just click on a random article when I Google like something I want to look up. I look at the website now. I don't just click on the article anymore. I look at the website under it. So I don't click on anything Kotaku or Polygon related. I don't go to those websites. I don't support them.
The average consumer doesn't do that, though, unfortunately.
No, but I just have to say this to everybody in GamerGate because I know a lot of people make this mistake. Don't click on the Kotaku thing. Don't do it. If you get pissed off at them, ignore it.
Always use an archive link.
Nurgle, do you have any final words?
He doesn't want his dreams to be dreams.
I do not want my dreams to just be dreams. But as an agent as a god of chaos, keep an eye out, SJWs. Chaos agents are everywhere.
Benji, do you have anything?
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're good.
I'll post a link. It's just a response from one of GamerGators because we missed a point about SPJ that there was a discussion about covering online controversies, and unfortunately, because of the bomb threat and Koretsky.
Yeah, we're gonna touch it next time. This was just the first panel, so we're gonna talk about it.
I'm sorry. I practically said everything when I was just. Shouting stuff, distorted shit. I'm sorry for that. It's
no worries. Well, we're gonna have a stream about the second part of Airplay.
So
no
yeah,
worries.
The only thing I'm gonna tell that I'm kind of agree a lot on various points because time will tell, and I believe that only a small number of outlets, and most of them they will be like new outlets. They will follow cause effective because I saw that on SPGA Airplay there will be like some sort of code of ethics applied for future outlets, but it was just a discussion mostly. So time will tell again. Let's see how it goes out.
All right, encourage you to have anything.
I didn't got a whole lot to say. I'll just let you guys just speak your own mind at the time of the stream. So I was just sitting here listening to you guys. But anyway, final point I would like to point out in the beginning of GG, one of the things that pretty much got to this point was the fight to SJWs, but we lost that around, I believe, when I was in there from day one. I think around December when IA left, because a lot of people were saying that. I'm pretty sure you already know now that we was trying to lead a personal army against SJWs, but I think the reason why is because we lost pretty much our way in order to fight them, but mainly focus on the journal side. I think to move ahead now was basically in the beginning is to fight both of them. The only thing I fear is how to approach that and how to counter that, the aggro's attacks or whatnot. But yeah, the stream was good. Yeah, Andrew, I'll probably might not go on the second one because I'll sit there and just not say anything, just let you guys talk.
Well, people are always welcome if they really want to get in touch. I really wanted just to make a short stream. I know some people other wanted to get here, but I'm too tired to have a longer stream than this.
Get some sleep.
Yeah, so anyone who wanted to come in, I'm gonna try to get you in for the next stream. Beryl, or I encourage you to have anything more.
That's about it. The only thing I gotta say beyond that is, if you want to move on from here after SPJ, go for it. Go for the fight for both of them, because it's pretty much the only way now. I mean, we're running out of options. We're pretty much in drama field everywhere. People's morale is just really damn low. If this is the next step, I'm all for it.
All right. Everolo, you had some finishing points. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple. Well, the first one is one that I kind of let escape earlier, which was when people were saying, Randy, why is it that when, now that we've allowed the whole Twitter harassment thing to function, why is it that Twitter, has double standards with us and allows people like fucking Randy Harper to get away with it? Well, because these people are the ones who have been entrenched into these ideas, and then the people are helping enforce it. All they were waiting was for us to go, yeah, harassment is a thing, so they could say, oh, look, our enemies agree, so it must be true, which put them all in a position, because, again, don't forget who exactly is doing this kind of, who's doing the quote-unquote policing Twitter. It's not a neutral party. It's another group of SJWs. They've effectively, allowed themselves to get into that position. So it's a lose-lose situation for us. The moment that you compromise with them in any way, you're just pretty much giving them exactly what they want. This is not a compromise situation, which leads me back to the whole how do we proceed? Should we just build our own little ethics policy and say that's it? Well, I think that, once again, the way that you get GamerGate back together, the way that you get, because we are fucking divided. This conversation that we had here today with opposing viewpoints is the most civil conversation that I've heard in a while. But the reality is, however, is that you have one side calling another side cancer, coming from very specific e-celebs, calling very specific groups, oh, you're cancer, you're not part of GamerGate, and that's what you got right now. So if you want to get the band back together, you go back to your core principles. You go back to what you stood for in the beginning. You go against that fight. You go once again against SJWs. The reason for that, it's easy. It really is. A lot of people are afraid of fighting, an ideology because you think you can't kill an ideology. Completely untrue. Completely untrue.
You can't kill the ideology, but you can make most of the ideology gone.
Exactly. You can make the ideology untouchable in a way. You can make it a prerogative. You can make, feminism is now slowly but surely becoming a bad thing. A lot of people, especially in the mainstream, when you call somebody a feminist, they're not looking at that as a good thing anymore, especially with all the craziness that's been going on. Now, feminism is just a branch of social justice, so there's a long way to go in that sense. But in my opinion, what you do to bring the band back together, to bring all of the people from all the other points of entertainment, is you focus on the common denominator. These people are trying to destroy all of your forms of entertainment, and the way they're trying to do it is to enforce this nonsense ideology. Ethics in and of its own, I personally believe that these people can't be reformed. Once you remove these people, and the way you remove them is that you make them untouchable, you ridicule them, you make them a joke, and you build better alternatives. Once these people are gone, it's kind of like SPJ says, ethics at the end of the day, it's a common sense decision.
Well, if you really, can I say something real quick? If you really look at the whole SJW narrative, the ideology, one of the most effective things that GamerGate did in the beginning, we don't do as often anymore, is we didn't directly go and attack these people on Twitter. We didn't directly talk to them.
Agreed.
What we did was we screen capped the crap they said, we archived everything, and we just displayed it for everyone to see. We put their shit on display. And there's multiple ways to get in when you're blocked to see what these idiots say, regardless of you being blocked. People don't seem to freaking realize
100%
that.
agreed. And what you're doing there is in essence, you're using the #1 most potent weapon against them. You're mocking their beliefs, and there's nothing they can touch. Even if you just put it on display, as you say, you're letting them mock themselves. And that's something that everybody in the mainstream, gamers and non-gamers alike, can get behind. If we turn it into just a conversation about ethics, if we turn it just into we need to get an ethics policy, we need to apply it, not only are there many ways for them to weasel their way out of, as with the example that I gave earlier, but it's not something that a lot of people are going to get behind. And again, I'm talking specifically to the PR people who like, who really don't like it when I give these type of arguments. You can't get people united from the outside, at least, just with ethics. It's an ideology you're fighting. Point it out. Make it untouchable. Mock it. People will get behind it. Nobody understands when you say stuff like, well, they can't have collusion between journalists. That people, that bores the shit out of them because, again, it's completely subjective and you can work your way around it. But when you say, hey, these people actually believe that video game titties are going to make you a misogynist, then they start singing the Shia LaBeouf tune. And that's when people get together. So I'm going to leave it there. Nurgle, if you want to hit a final point before Andrew Dahl collapses.
No, I think you hit everything. I think you hit everything there very well.
That's
cool.
why I'm calling for all creators and artists to make stuff that mock that shit, political correct ideology and stuff.
Yeah, that I support as well. John, any last words?
Negative. I've said all I've needed to say tonight. I think Varanol really had some good points to say at the end here.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. You as guests as well. We're probably gonna continue talking. I'm probably gonna go to sleep. So.
Two small things. Andrew Dahl's a writer. Read him. And Soul over here is a music composer. Check his shit out. That's how you beat him. We make better content. That's another thing that we can all get behind. So.
Yeah, that is true. Better content is always good.
So Andrew Dahl's a writer, Soul's a music composer. Check it out.
All right. See you guys next time. Bye.